A burning question that I know a lot of you are wondering: what happened to the Shmuseum channel? It is time for the full story, the complete transformation from start to end of building my dream garage. We're here in a barn on a farm in England that was previously a milking parlour home to cows and is now home to the Shmeemobiles, my car collection. Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel. Merry Christmas to you, where I want to bring you along for the full journey as we started out with a place that, believe me, you could never have imagined would one day be home to the cars, the memorabilia, the different things that are around. Initially with no proper floor, no proper shutters, obviously nothing you would need for a place like this. We added some of the car lifts to kick things off, making it feel like a garage. We've then built the mezzanine with the upstairs office spaces, the downstairs lounge. We've painted the floor as a racetrack to give that feel of being in a motorsport venue to go with the grandstand. And most recently, we've also installed the workshop that we're already getting underway with here too. But I want to take things back. I want to show you through the whole build, everything that's been going through my mind from 2.5 years ago, getting the keys to this place, to thinking about what it could become, to where we are now. Let me begin with the search. It was important to find the right venue. In fact, I was looking for about 2 years to find somewhere for this purpose. And what I mean by that is somewhere very private, not on a busy industrial estate with a noisy neighbour, somewhere away from flight paths. Believe it or not, filming a lot of videos, I'm very conscious of what's above us and the noise that that makes, but somewhere also that I could visualise into what it could become in the future. When I came upon this location, not in a great state to begin with, it ticked every single box. Let's go in and see where we began. What you have to remember is that none of this was actually here. We're going to get to this a little bit later, but when I first came to visit this place, it was a far cry from what you see now. In fact, when you first saw it, when I revealed the Shmuseum for the first time, we had a concrete floor, we had these sketchy light blue painted walls, we had some lights in, but nothing else. Let's open up the shutters and head on in to reveal the new garage. This is the shell. This is the space where we have plenty of ideas for what is coming. This is epic. Look at the size of this place and just begin to think what it's going to be like. We still had to add all of the security, the bollards, alarms, systems, you can imagine all of that. And then to start thinking about where it was going. Another thing for me was to find a location that was in an area that would be a place I want to be for driving, filming videos, for living, of course, as well. And everything with this ticked those boxes, but my word, it started filled with mud. I mean, quite literally, there were cattle around here. There was even a well that kind of came in and underneath, a way to walk through. It was open at front and back. It was filled with small porta cabin type things in the corners. There was a load of stuff stored in here. It was filled with cobwebs, dirty, dark, nothing that you would initially think, hey, yeah, that's where I'm going to store, you know, a whole garage worth of supercars. And we had to wait for probably 5 or 6 months to get the place up to the state where it was going to be possible to bring cars in for the first time, to actually come here. I'd been here with my G80 BMW M3, the G63 had been here as well. But on day one, we came in with the Ford GT, with the previous Senna, with the previous G63, brought the cars in, and it started to feel like, yeah, we can do something with this place. And it was back then that I actually started sketching out the floor plans and layouts for what we've ended up with now. This was an idea 3 years ago now at this point. It just took until 2023 to get started with the build. Along the way, we've had many videos on the Shmuseum channel, and I want to talk more about that. We've had loads of visitors here as well, in various different states of the garage completion. It's quite the list. We've just been brainstorming everybody who's come to visit. We'll get to that a little bit later on, because I want to go into a lot of detail about all of this. So the whistle-stop overview is that we started with the installation about 6 months in of the first 4 BendPak auto stackers, kicking off the car lifts, starting to feel like a bespoke private garage. We then hung all of the tapestries, the banners that you see around the walls, which again was a super cool touch to make it feel really special. We installed a mezzanine, an upper level, with the plan for the workspaces to come along later on, but of course at that stage literally just an upstairs without a whole lot more else. We then introduced Barn 2, the second half. We're going to talk a bit more about barn 2 later on. I no longer have access to barn 2 for various reasons I've mentioned before. We installed 3 further BendPak auto stackers to continue the line of cars, the storage down the wall. We then kicked off with the build of the office space, the upstairs office rooms, the downstairs lounge, the kitchenette, and plenty more. There was a bit of a hold over winter before we continued. We then painted the floor, bringing this racetrack feel from cure coatings with the lines literally directly through the garage. We continued with the lounge, installing the ESG switchable glass, the magic glass that gives you this amazing reveal of the whole space, before continuing with the fit and finish, ultimately leading us to now installing the Dura furniture for the workshop area that we have in addition. There are so many more things that have been part of this, from lighting to decoration to painting to so much more, to bring everything from my mind, my brain, into a big hall, keeping that warehouse farm barn vibe, because that's very much British, that's in the nature of where we are, but with this explosion of colour that comes from all of the cars, not being afraid of that with the things hanging around, the different collections of Lego models, of Swatch watches, of arcade machines, of all sorts of other stuff around the place. But I want to really go into a full story of this, to dive into things in a lot more detail, take you back and bring you through the journey towards today. Part 1, maximising space and the car lifts behind me. How cool is it in a garage to have cars stacked one above the other? Now, I always had this idea for the separation, the museum side with the flagship cars, things on display, and the storage side. Now, don't get me wrong, cars are not really in storage. Everything is regularly driven. I don't really allow any car to sit for too long, maybe 1 or 2 exceptions we'll ignore for the time being, but to look the part. This play on the Shmuseum, of course, it's my private garage, but to have everything presented for all of the videos, to look amazing. And that's where these lifts came in, the BendPak Auto Stacker A6W, the wide auto stacker suitable for supercars, super easy ramp angle, and crucially for me, not having ugly 4 posts. When the lifts are up, you have this amazing view of the cars up top, the way that the view is effectively unbroken, especially when you look down from the mezzanine. But even when they're down at the ground height like this, the cars are slightly raked forward, looking sporty, ready and raring to go, but giving a very clean view, no ugly posts sitting up above. So the steel all arrived, containered over, forklifted here into the Shmuseum with very little idea at the time as to how exactly it was going to go and how epic it would look down the line. But installing them, getting them all up and running one by one, getting them tested, getting them all installed and ready to go. The first car to be lifted here at the Shmuseum is the GT8. And we're going to have a run of 4 up top. We'll put 4 underneath them as well, before eventually loading up the full run when we had the final 3 installed to have all 7 of these car lifts. And when they are fully loaded, it looks incredible. The splattering of bright colours of the Shmeemobiles, each individually controlled from behind, being able to sit almost butted right up alongside one another, and crucially maximising the space. Being able to have the 7 lifts here means enough room to open all of the doors, even if the cars are underneath and have unusual gull wings or other things, still being able to easily access the cars. They can all live plugged in behind as well into the electrics that we installed, and have all of that space, make the most of it, house as many cars as possible, and have that wow effect when you walk in of seeing the full run. Coming back here to show you a little bit more, one of the advantages here is when you're reversing the car on, the rear wheels just drop straight down into those channels. You know exactly where it is, lined up at the back, and you can tell, even with a wide supercar like this, there's a whole lot of spare space on either side. So these work very, very simply. You can see on the control panel, you literally just switch it on, put the car up and down. And I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of this. Make sure the GT Black Series is unlocked, because otherwise it will of course set the alarm off. But you literally press a button, it goes up, doesn't take very long at all, and then when it's up into place, you've got a few different lock settings, so 5 different heights. We always use section or number 4 of all of those, lock it into place, and then you can pop a car in underneath, or of course when you come back to the car and you've pulled out the one underneath, bring it back down to the ground. Very nice and easy. And like I said, when they are down, it just has this really clean finish, and that's what I like quite so much about it. Now, also back here, we have all of the banners that we hung up just standing up on the ledge. And I found those online, nothing particularly crazy, but each one links in some way to the channel, the car collection, something that I admire or really like, whether it's an event or famous racing drivers. And they added so much more color, and that's a big part of it, right? the colours of the cars, the colours of the banners, the colour of the paints that we have around. Actually, this was done when we moved in, this more royal Oxford blue for the walls, without really much idea at the time of where everything was going, but we've brought that in, incorporated it with the dual tone blue theme that you see in so many things around here, and it works really perfectly as a result. So these have been a very, very significant piece, a wonderful thing to have installed, to be able to house all of the cars like this, and I think they look really smart when they're stacked up on the lifts. I want to bring you to the grandstand, moving upstairs, the construction by Novus Workspace Solutions. Martin, Webbo, George, what an amazing job of doing this, and crucially the view from upstairs, having a second level. And it was interesting when figuring out the mezzanine, the different heights, the different options, and trying to get it all right to make sure we have enough headspace for the rooms and the storage up here, considering the shape of the roof, but also the most amazing view of everything down below. And this is the major pinch moment for me, having that view when I'm sitting at my desk up here. And obviously there was nothing here. This was, well, there certainly wasn't a floor. The railings, the idea with all of this was to make it like a grandstand at a motorsport venue. Imagine you're at Silverstone or the Nürburgring GP or Hockenheim or something, to feel quite industrial, to not overdo it, but considering the venue itself, when we thought about putting in a different ceiling, a different roof, a flat roof, something like that, it was a barn. We love that history. We love the fact that it's on a farm, that it housed cows in the past, and I didn't want to lose that. So bringing this motorsport meets farmland vibe together somehow. Then of course, the rooms up here. The rooms, I went backwards and forwards on the size of the rooms and how much space we should have for these different areas. This being the main office, this is not complete. We need to do a whole load of changing of furniture and layouts and things, but housing all the model car collection, the 1:18 scale models, with many bits of furniture that we've picked up from visits to IKEA over the years that we've been here at the Shmuseum, a far cry from the gazebos that we used to have out there over on the other side, but all of the glass that came from ESG, to feel like you're in a hospitality box, to feel like you're upstairs in the VIP at a motorsport venue. That was the idea, and again, I think we've nailed that. It absolutely works perfectly with these banners up top as well for the companies who have supported and been a part of this journey, again, like you would have at a grandstand. In here, the collectibles room, this is where I house my Swatch collection. Yes, I have a small obsession with Swatch watches, and there is a light patter of ticking automatic watches in here, which I know some people hate, but in some ways it's kind of therapeutic as well. And I've loved collecting different Swatch watches and having some more space. We also added some small storage rooms. There are no lights in here, so I apologize that it's a bit dark, but up here we've got some storage areas, we've got access to the roller shutter, and eventually we've got room for things that we might want to be putting in and housing up there. If we head back out this way, down towards the other end of the upstairs, where we just fitted your kind of regular square tiles for the carpets, down to this room we have the second office, the media office you could say. Again, bit more space, and another very big storage room. And this is what I mean by headroom. I know you can't really see much because again, we failed with lighting up to this point, but housing all of the Lego boxes, housing all of the model car boxes, a load more, let's say, home storage things without much headroom. So that was the balance, looking at these beams when we were originally building all of this to figure out what could possibly go where. But upstairs is an amazing space, an amazing area. We also had Spud and the team from SB Air Conditioning coming in to install heaters and AC units. Big difference. This is a barn. It's insulated, the roof is insulated, the walls are insulated, but still, it gets cold in the winter, it gets warm in the summer. Not as cold or as warm as it could be without insulation, but it's lovely to have that climate controlled feeling inside the office space with that view. You know, when I come and sit at my desk over here with my Ford GT Noble chairs that I've actually had for many years and just sit back, my view out, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. The third part of this is the downstairs and this half of the downstairs. We'll get to the lounge and reception room because over here, given it's the grandstand and we've got that upstairs hospitality vibe, if you go to a motorsports venue, if you're in the hospitality, you tend to be above the pit boxes. This is our halo bay, and the idea here was very much to have that feeling with the floor as well, which we will of course get to, and housing the Williams FW19 1997 show car chassis number 1 of the year that Villeneuve was victorious in the Rothmans livery, something I'm very fortunate enough to own and to have here in the collection and totally love. Now behind it up on the wall is the logo that we made with treacle for the Shmuseum. This was actually put together by Massimo G in the US. We have things, for example, like the horns up top, the nod to its former use, and the idea of it being a barn housing cars with this graphic that actually features headlights, mirrors, and the wing from various of the Shmeemobiles. Fun little design. Also over on this wall, we have an array of number plates that had been on previous cars I've owned. So here in the UK, when you sell the car, you can keep the plate. It's just a piece of plastic that comes off it. So when you look at all of this, we've got some of the earlier McLarens and things over this way. We've got cars like the 911 GT3 that I had in Germany. We've also got the SLS Black Series temporary plates because I exported it from Germany back in February 2020. It's crazy to think, dated for a month. So that's like a month after I took delivery of it. The Toyota GR Supra, the quote from Akio Toyota, loads of plates. Bit of a fun personal thing. And then if you look up top, there's the projector, which actually screens to the glass for the lounge. We're going to get to that. Yes, it needs tidying. It will get painted. We'll cut another plate just to finish that off. And then up on the roof, we have the lighting. This came from Hexagon Lighting. I went for a completely custom design, actually. We planned this out to have this chevron style. There's also the outer box, although that's turned off just at the moment, and we need to tidy away the wiring. We haven't finished with all of this, as you can tell, but it gives that feeling of a super bright pit box, quite literally. Turn it all on, it gets very bright in here, and you can have, well, a good place to shoot some photos and things as well, and also be able to see it through from the lounge, which we'll get to in a moment. Next to this though, behind this wall, is the kitchenette. Now we have no need for a full kitchen. We have motion detecting lights, they fire up, because this isn't a place to eat meals. It's a place, yes, to have a microwave, to have a fridge. We've got a sink. I don't think we've ever actually shown that there's a sink here. It's not plumbed in yet, for reasons you will see in just a moment. But this is a small little space for some storage and some things, right? To have a kitchenette without really fully using it. And then up top, the tiles hide away the projector, which is hidden and wired in, and we did all of that, and it was quite adventurous and fun, but works and does the job. Now, as we come past, not hiding at all, there are some nice gas pumps all around, which just add to the presentation of the whole space. Until we get to the unfinished corner, this is going to be the facilities, the toilets. They're going to be back here, going to have 2 separate rooms. You can see the stud wall frame is in. This is basically what the whole thing looks like before it's cladded and painted and tidied away properly. But we'll have the plumbing from the back of the kitchen, and in here, it's already actually ready to go outside. It's just a case of time and money to get all of this finished. So that's on the cards for the future. And to finish it all up, make it all look a little bit prettier in the process. So that's that part of the downstairs. I'm bringing you over now to the games and chill out corner. This is where we've got a nice space to take a seat. We've got the slot car table. We've got loads of Swatch watches, very big ones up on the wall that hide the storage room behind. We'll go take a look at that in a moment. All of the display cabinets. And I guess I'm going to start up at this end where we've got the 2 arcade machines, the Sega Rally Twin Arcade, the Ferrari F355 Challenge. And the only problem with these, because every garage needs arcade machines, is the amount of time that you consume. If you start playing, you just don't find yourself stopping. Blast back from the past. I bought the Sega Rally a couple of years ago. The 355 Challenge was a more recent addition here at the garage, but I just think they're such cool things to have in this kind of space. Next to that, I spend, again, far too much time here. If I ever come and throw one ball, I find myself not leaving. This was a present from my girlfriend as well. I'll take that. 1 out of 1, 100% record for the time being. Loads of pictures and posters I need to sort out. All of these cabinets, all the way along, are filled with Lego, Lego Technic, Lego cars, basically everything Lego for the last couple of years, because I love that stuff. And then the table right in front of me, which you can probably barely see, is an enormous Carrera slot car track. Again, this has lots of fun racing modes and settings and things. And just, this is the corner and space to chill. Take a seat here, the Westminster outdoor living furniture that we have out here to literally sit outdoors in the barn, around the cars, especially when the weather is a little bit warmer. So up on the wall behind me, there are 24 maxi swatch watches, the gigantic versions of the smaller swatches. I really like those. I've just got an obsession with collecting them, as with the room upstairs. And we have the artwork from Louette, which is a throwback to what we did with the Ford GT and that whole adventure. Now, I like this space a lot because it hid everything away. When you have a collection of cars, you inevitably have a lot of stuff that you need to store. And there's a lot of stuff in here. But we made enough space. That was the big thing. We've got all of the tools and, race gear and helmets and things, and I just find I've got so much of all of this stuff, all of the C-Tech chargers for the cars, power adapters, extension reels, and then a shelf per car, 675 LT Spider shelf, stuff for that car, Zenvo shelf, stuff for that car, Focus RS Heritage, Ford GT, just a space to put things so that we know what's where, so that it's super easy. This is something that every garage should really have because it makes your life so much less confusing. I mean, even up top, we've got here the original exhaust from the Ford GT, all of that stuff just to keep somewhere that isn't making a mess and just heaped up. Wheels, for example, the GT500s, carbon fiber wheels, remember these? The ones that got damaged in New York. Then we've also got the original Ford GT wheels boxed up. We've got lots of DeWalt stuff. We've started putting things out in the new storage, which we'll get to, but there's tons more here to figure our way through as well. And just lots and lots of boxes. Then back behind you, we have the ladder up to the lookout area, which is a nice kind of side effect bonus of the room that we put in down below it, with another cool view out over the garage, but primarily a hidden storage space. So if we head back out here, I'm going to show you what's beneath that. Come over this way, past more gas pumps, the Arcade City Pac-Man machine, big shout out to them, thousands of games in here that you can play. Another big consumer of time, but absolutely love it. Everyone sits down at there and plays for far too long. This was, of course, all built by Novus. Again, I apologize that it's kind of dark in here, but this is another, at the moment, storage space, which the plan is to become effectively the merch and Shmoo room. That's the idea, where we keep Shmoo the cow and stock of different things. We haven't put in the door swinger yet. That will all come in time. But that whole area really cleanly hid the mess that was there before, from when we had the gazebos and our 2-year temporary heated tents for the offices, before we had the actual offices. But I think the result is perfect. And again, that's what I had planned out a long time ago, a long time ago. Immediately next up is the workshop corner, the workshop space in the daily parking areas, right inside the front shutter. So when coming in with a dirty car or just the daily driving car, it means not dragging dirt and mud all the way through the garage. But at this point in time, before we dive too much into the recently installed Dura furniture that we have around, I want to talk about the move and change in plans of the workshop, as I had announced about 1.5 years ago, with Barn 2 at the back. Welcome to the other side of the Shmuseum. Our new barn space, completely opened, at the moment empty, I should say, rather. Now, I did address this a couple of times, but I know people still ask what happened with Barn 2. So 1.5 years ago, we got the keys to the back side. This being the milking parlour, that side was the collecting yard. So that's where the cattle would go and they would come through here. But with the shape of the land, it actually sits with the concrete floor about 1 metre or so higher than this side. So it was never going to be an option to install a car lift or a ramp. It would have been cost prohibitive, taken up way too much space. It was just an absolute no-go. But I got the keys because once it had been finished and been set up later than this side, the idea was to use it for more working on cars, that kind of thing. The problem was, one, I didn't really need the space. As you can see here, we've still got a fair amount of space, and there are 3 cars in here that aren't mine either. 2, didn't really have the time or the motivation to create and get hiring more people and work out how to do all of that at the time. And to be honest, still really quite busy with other projects, so still haven't. And number 3, cost prohibitive. The difference between using it for not very much versus somebody else being there is ginormous. So at the end of the day, it made sense to let someone else have those keys, to not use it for my own purposes. So that is basically it for the foreseeable future. No further plans, given when we do work, it's lighter work. It's storing tools, it's maybe wheels and tires, perhaps an exhaust, trim pieces inside, those kinds of things. So I don't need a full 5-car workshop bay. That's for Tavarish and Matt Armstrong and some of my other friends who know a lot more about that world than I do. So what we wanted here was to present something that looked amazing. And I think I can easily say this is perfect. We built this bespoke setup with Dura, who make the ultimate in these kinds of things for garages, either commercial or home garages. And this is where we have all of our DeWalt tools at the moment, impact drivers, different things that are around, all the batteries are actually up top. We're going to get this wired in properly. Still waiting for some electrics at the moment. We'll need to get these all wired up. We'll also need to get some more sockets along the wall here and obviously come into the merch room that we have just behind. But the way we have these tool drawers that pawn out, which will get filled with some hand tools in the near future, these are absolutely brilliant, genuinely brilliant. And while we might not be doing the most top level work here, like taking an engine out or that kind of thing, for the things we are doing, like even earlier today and yesterday, I've been over here grabbing some tools and doing some things with them. It just happens far more often than you might think, even just for the fixing up and building of other parts of the garage. Now, as we come past, you cannot underestimate how useful something like this is for running around the floor. We need to talk more about the floor, but this helps clean it a lot. You go over it, loads of the marks come up, nice and easy. We will have the C-Tech charger back on the wall as we did before. The C-Tech Charge Storm Connected 2 that can wire in 2 chargers. We took it off temporarily to get this all installed, and when we do the electrics for all of that, we'll obviously do it at the same time. Plus, having this, my original AMG GTR wheel, put back on the wall to be the holder for the electric charging cables. This was actually recently redone at Whoops Will Fix It, so we've had the outer pinstripe done in the same light blue as you have by the lights over here, and also the AMG logo. So it matches perfectly against the satin black of the wheel as I had it on the GTR. Don't ask why I have one of these. It's a long story, but let me carefully pop this back down on the floor for the moment. Then as we continue down, this is where we just got more shelves of cleaning stuff, all of the Topaz car care products. Our car cleaning things are in here. I'm being very careful because there is some oil in there because, hey, it has been used for some servicing work already. Brad has been working on his Abarth down here as well. Whole lot of rubbish and things to come on out. So yeah, daily spaces right inside. I should point out these as well, by the way. Having these carpets, these pick up so much of the dirt and grime that comes in on cars. So we made sure it's long enough for a full rotation of the wheels so that anything coming in basically comes off here. Clean these, throw them away. That's a trick I got from Topaz actually, way back. That's how they did it at the front entrance. And I thoroughly recommend it. That makes a big difference to the amount of dirt and grime that comes in your garage. It just has to be long enough for like 3 meters for a full rotation of a tire. Maybe it's about 3 meters, I can't remember exactly, but that's what we figured out with that back at the time. So we've got these basically 2 spaces here, easy to move cars in and out. When a car's charging, it's a 22 kilowatt charger, so it charges super fast. Maybe big car like this, 4 or 5 hours, something like that. Smaller car, tops up much quicker, and just have those spaces for an easy, quick exit out of the shutter with the lovely workspace area behind if we want to bring a car in and get some work done. We need to talk about the floor. I mentioned a bit earlier about the layout. The storage side, where we can have 15 cars, 7 up, 7 down, and 1 more squeezed on the end, so we can choose whether we want to use that space or not. 15 cars on that side, 1 in the Halo bay, 16, 2 in the daily spaces, 18, and then we've got this extra area. Now, as you can see at the moment, everything's staggered, kind of a fanned out shape, and you get 5 cars around the front and 1 tucked behind, which takes us to over 20 cars in here. And that's before you start putting cars in the middle at the end or in different positions, or squish these in a little bit more, which you could easily do. There's a ton of space here between the cars. But the idea with this side, with all of the games area behind, was to make it what I've called the museum side. It's not a museum, the cars all get driven. In fact, the 296 is actually filthy right now. Doesn't look it in Rossodino because I've been daily driving it in the winter weather. The Purosangue's just come back from its big tour abroad. But this space is having cars just looking pretty, basically. There's an option for the future if we want to make more space out of it, but we went to design the floor to match what would work with the cars. And I had this inspiration to do it like a racetrack. Places I've visited before, other collections that have had similar types of themes. And let's face it, for all of us, when we were kids, we had toy cars we pushed around a toy mat. It feels like that, just more grown up. The toy cars just got a little bit bigger along the way. So this is where Cure Coatings stepped in, using Westwood products to paint this floor. It's painted, but unbelievably durable. So they painted out the lines for the curbs, obviously brought that solid white line in as well, inspired by the layout of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. And then this central section, if you come and have a close look at it, it's got all of these chipboards in it that make it look like tarmac. Here we go then. This is very swift progress. The team have 3 rollers on the trot, all absolutely flying through, and we've got the flakes being added. But this is super easy to clean. You run over it with the scrubber that I showed you earlier, and bingo, nice and easy to preserve and look nice. And the shape of it is like YouTube corner at the Nürburgring. So as it comes down from the front entrance, has a little wiggle as it comes through, a straight here, and then a small wiggle again. This is Brünchen on the Nordschleife.
Coming towards Brünchen, which is now open again.
We're going to hopefully in the future have a bit of a mural going up on the wall to continue that through, but it's most famous for where everyone kind of stuffs it on the Nürburgring. But when we were doing the floor and they were painting it through, the whole floor had to be firstly gone over. It was a bit of an ordeal, made a lot of mess everywhere. We had a nice polished concrete floor before, but I wanted to do something that makes it feel more like private man cave and less like just a generic warehouse. And that was such a visually dramatic part, so many different colors and options available, and being able to tie in even the halo area to it as well, having those curves coming round towards this space, the dotted lines, measuring out all of that, was just such a fun thing to do, such a fun, different idea. You really feel when you're driving in, and obviously if you're reversing in or something, you have this very clear line of where you're going, and it gives me this big open space in the middle because of the shape and what we've done, that if I position a car that comes to visit right here, as you see in the videos, a car can park right on this spot, and it feels right. There's enough room to walk all the way around it, to take photos of it, to properly look at it. And that was a big thing for me because I'm making a video basically every day. So it was super important that the layout would fit with having the option to present something to you guys. And that's the idea with the layout of the cars, with keeping it slightly offset to the side as we have done, rather than just packing everything in. Let's face it, if you packed in another row right in front of them, you probably could. You could get a 4-post lift that you can drive under to the back spaces, but that wouldn't look anywhere nearly as nice. So Cure stepped in, they did this with the floor, and I have been so happy with it. An amazing job by their team. They worked so hard to get it done, and to this day, I'm still thankful to them because it just looks awesome. It just looks awesome. Even if you're standing here, these are like race cars. The Ford GT, for example, so many of the cars here are inspired by motorsport. It fits. It just fits really well. On the topic of the floor, I also need to show you what we have in the reception room. This tiny little room, basically so that when we open the door, it's private inside. The floor there is not tiled. That is also painted by Cure. It was really quite clever what they did with the base layer in the dark grey and then the marking with the lighter grey that they then threw in the same chipboards to give a really cool effect that you can also clean pretty simply, which we need to do more of. Haven't been as on it on that as I would have liked. The other fun thing is to have an F1 wheel and tyre from the show car as a holder for an overload of umbrellas. It's England, right? It rains a lot, so I definitely need 20 umbrellas. They're just things you end up collecting. So that's a fun little room, just as an entryway, basically. Keeping things a little bit more mysterious, either if you're coming through to walk straight through this door into the garage, or if you're going to go through to the lounge that's behind the lovely glass here. We should probably go check that out. From the reception room into the lounge, and this is where we spend most of our time, and this is what it used to look like. This is a rotating photo carousel. We're somewhere back here at the moment, behind the Ford GT. That was earlier this year. This all happened starting from around 6 months ago. Now, thanks to the heating in here, it's a wonderful place to be, and it's about to have a very impressive view. So we recently received the Valencia Home Theatre seating. We have a projector set up onto the glass, and the glass itself is magical. This is where I have all the memorabilia and things on display, welcoming people, my friends who come to visit, that kind of thing. And you can talk to this by voice, or for a demo to not set any of your devices off if you've got one at home, I can press the button. So have a look at this with the barn glass at the press of a button. Check that out. And then we've also got the halo space area again. Press a button, and boom, a view through to the F1 show car. This is the ESG switchable privacy glass. I first ever saw it at HRO Ferrari on Brompton Road in South Kensington. It's insane. It's such a cool wow factor. So think about this. You come in from the outside through the reception room here into the lounge. At that point in time, you've not seen anything. If you've never been here, you know, if a friend of mine brings their partner or their kids or something like that, they've never seen this, and I can talk to it and just literally like that, you have that view out. Or alternatively, sometimes when we're out there, some people might be in here, whatever's going on, just do that. Glass frosts up again, goes completely opaque, you can't see through it, and you have the privacy. I absolutely love this. This is one of the coolest things about the Man Cave Garage. So totally epic. And just like that, or from my phone, or like I say, from speaking to it, because we have the devices positioned in every room and all around. So one of the beautiful things is with the glass this way, because it kind of feels like you're looking at a toy inside a plastic box over there. We've got the bright blue. I know there's a lot of color, but again, that's my style, that's my feeling about it all. And then things that are very personal to me that are on display, like for example, the mannequin that's wearing my full GT suit that goes with my chassis number J211. These are made by Sparco, the full kit, even the gloves and the shoes that match it all, matching to the Le Mans race suit from back at the time, the kit, the bag that it comes with, which actually fits into the very small storage space at the back of the car. Over this way, the seating, the Valencia home theatre seating, we've got the row of 3 and we've got the double seat over on this side. These are really comfortable to sit back. We've got the controls. If I press it that way, the footrest comes up. I've got lumbar support, the backrest goes back. Chill out, in comfort. It is a very nice place to be. As you can imagine, USB charging ports, cup holders, super cool. Fits very nicely with the colours as well, which you can change. We've apparently got one in purple. If I squeeze through over here, we just put up this bookcase housing some of the different books and things I've collected over the years, the Gumball yearbook, different manufacturer books, the Shmee 150 Living the Supercar Dream book, stuff, magazines from Ferrari, McLaren, Lamborghini, Porsche. We've also got the badges up on the wall from Ford, Mercedes-Benz and Ferrari, which are 3 brands that have been very significant for me in recent years, loads of different cars from each of them. We've got the fridge tucked in the corner, equipped of course, given this is a YouTube channel, Prime amongst everything else that's tucked in there. A few other things, we've got some random Shmoo the Cow air fresheners that are of course in the Shmee 150 eBay shop, and some bottles and things that all have a story, like when I went to visit the 72 Stag Power guys, what else do we have? Different drives and cars and things I've been in and rallies and stuff like that. All just things that get collected. And then when it comes to memorabilia, this, for example, is actually a part from Rimac when they were crash testing C2, as it was called then, Nevera. This is an inner door part. So when they ran the crash test and they had a few things left, they very kindly let me have that on display here. In the cabinets, like here, look, if I open this up, we've got paint samples here. The STO, Viola Bass, Cerulean Blue, Orion Purple, fun things. Oh, that's from the guys when I went out to Japan when I was in Tokyo. But all of this cool stuff, you know, from Grand Prix, from different events, the model cars that all link to different stuff as well. Like when we had the MSRT Fiesta WRC Rally Sim that was here. When I went to Paris and went out in a 2.7 RS, the cars just around the stories, all the Gumball, you know, the route books from the different Gumball rallies. So much cool stuff. I love this. I absolutely love this. Visiting JR Garage, Triple F Collection, Chris Fix, JM, stuff from various friends of mine, my Centurion watch box. The Senna is from Amalgam. Obviously that's an exact 1:8 replica of my car. Doors open, everything is exactly the same. This helmet was back from when I had the Morgan 3-wheeler. We wrapped it in the same color scheme as the 3-wheeler, and obviously I've still got that here as well. Down below, inside this cabinet, we've got various different things that we've offered along the way. The heel tread socks, the Tarmac Works Mini GT model cars. Down below, trophy from the Mille Miglia I did in 2018. Just lots of fun little stuff. Shelby GT500 press launch. These were for using the 4-point harnesses in my 991.2 GT3 so that you wouldn't get a seatbelt blipping thing. Schedoni in Italy, lovely stuff that we have here. Some personal things as well. Down below, same kind of story, just stuff that I've accumulated over the years. And there's one more cabinet down here as well with even more goodies inside it. Again, some model cars, some different things. Hennessy Venom F5. What else do we have? From going to different Grand Prix races. Again, Mille Miglia. These were the original shoes from the 2005 Ford GT. I might not have a 2005 Ford GT, but maybe that's a kind of one day I need to. And then down below, these are quite fun. YouTube did this at one point, this partnership with Puma, where they made some shoes which are badged as well, Shmee 150. So again, stuff like that all just lives on display here. That's the original sales brochure for the Aston Martin 177. Don't even think you could get that as a customer back at the time. So a very special thing to have in there, along with all of the rest of this. And then down here, I didn't actually mention it, but these need to go on the wall. These are, of course, the plaques for YouTube for reaching 100,000, or the big one is the 1 million subscribers. So those are at some point going to go up on the wall here. There's a ton of memorabilia. That was like a whistle-stop tour. Maybe one day I need to talk about every single thing in all of these cabinets and tell you all the stories, because some of this stuff has some really cool stories behind it. The technology here is really cool, and it goes without saying, there's quite a lot going on. I became very obsessed with smart home things and the ease with which you can have so many different elements controlled, different lights, different circuits, different switches, different groups, different modes. And I want to demonstrate some of that and explain a bit more about it all, as well as what we have with the projector set up here. Now, I'm not going to speak it all through. You can talk to the different things that hear you all around the whole place. I use the Amazon system, which has a name beginning with A and ending with A, but if I say it now, if you're listening on speakers, I know it will get a little bit annoying. But for example, here in the Halo Bay, I have a group, press the button, boom, it all turns off straight away. Everything from the lights above to the sign at the back, the whole lot. And you can do all of this individually. That's with the whole chevron and box on. You can just turn off the box, or you can go the other way and just have the box on. Basically, can set it all up, can set up groups, can put it all in one big group so that when you walk out, you basically just say and it all turns off nice and easily. If we come over here towards the workshop side of it, and normally I don't use the app, so this is actually a little bit of a learning one for me to figure out where everything is. In the workshop, I can press a button and all of the lighting around the workshop cabinets will turn off, even things like the traffic light over there. It would actually be quite fun to do them individually, but it's on one power circuit, so we're not going to get to that yet. It would be a little bit confusing. Even the arcade machines and all of the pumps, they're all in separate groups. Or, one thing that's kind of fun actually to do here, if you take the whole barn, the whole Shmuseum, right, we can turn off the top lights, the main bright lights. Gets a bit darker, I know, but mood lighting, how cool is that with all the lights around? There are certainly more things I want to do, like under the lifts, and I'm sorry if it's gone dark and maybe a bit blurry, it's not the easiest thing like this, but it's really fun to have that kind of control over the whole space. And you can also have a name, so you can turn on one person's group and it turns on just the things that they would want. You kind of get where I'm going with this. Anyway, I want to bring you through here because I need to show you this projector setup. This is really fun. So at the moment, when you look towards the Halo Bay, basically that glass is, well, clear. You can tell at the moment that we've got something on the other side of it, which normally you would turn off, but obviously I've done this as a demo. I have a group set up, which if I turn it off, check this out, have a look at this. Boom, just like that. We've got Mark McCann's video with Matt Armstrong, Chris Slicks, Tavarish, or Geraldine, maybe I should say, and Mark's wife there as well, Jane. How fun is that to watch on the screen? Obviously turn these lights off and it gets even better, but literally just at the press of a button, we can go straight back to having the view through again, just through to the F1 car. So imagine watching Formula 1 knowing there's an F1 car right behind it, just like that. Maybe it's just me, but I think that's really fun. I really, really like this. And just playing around with it all, you know, having the privacy, the settings, and like I said, being able to just talk to it and change it. You have the screens, you don't have to use the screens. They also connect to some of the cameras as well, which is all out there and all linked together. Or when you go home, you just press one button and turn off the entire room. Even the lights up here, even all of these. Look, I literally can turn off each of the individual lights as I want just from here. And the best thing about all of this, you know, the absolute best thing about that whole system, I think I spent, including this screen, one other screen, all of the devices, all of the systems that connect up to every single part of this, the total was less than £1,000. If you did that with a full smart system decades ago, that would have been a big money expenditure. And now we can, like I say, just sit back in the Valencia home theatre seating, kick back and enjoy the view, go back here, turn on the cinema mode, and boom, off we go. Just like that, nice and easy. This is literally my dream. To sit back here, recline the seat, grab a drink, order a takeout, and watch on what must be a 200-inch screen projected onto the glass from behind. Epic. Absolutely epic. Talking about other YouTubers, while Freddie's been here a few times, neither Mark McCann or Matt Armstrong are yet to visit the Shmuseum. I think we need to fix that in the next year. But I tell you what, tons of people have come by. It's been amazing to meet up with so many friends that you know from the car social media world here at the garage. Starting with the first visitors, two of the OGs, the original UK supercar YouTubers, Sam, seen through glass, who came with his Jaguar F-Type.
Hi. Good to see you. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Welcome. And Paul, Supercars of London, with his Nissan R35 GTR.
Good afternoon. Good to see you. Been a while. It's been a while.
Two guys I've been friends with for a very long time. We've done so many things over the years, collaborations, road trips, adventures, and all sorts. Then next up, my friend Zach from Zach's Garage brought the first ever Ferrari here with his 488 Pista. Who would have thought then that there would then be a little collection of Ferraris here down the line? Compared to your garage, this is quite small and open.
Well, yeah, but I mean, not for long. I mean, it's going to be a lot more full very soon. Funnily enough, our main room before we started collecting cars was identical to this, apart from it's filled full of chalk. It was a chalk storage barn, so we had to have lorries remove lumps of chalk, and then we turned it into a garage that we call the museum. So
yeah, literally.
We now have something in common. We've both got a museum.
We've had Freddie stop by a few times, including events around petrol hedonism. JM came by with his Ferrari F12 Berlinetta when he was shooting also a car or two of mine. Ed Bolian stopped by from VinWiki, although we didn't actually shoot a video. It was quite a quick visit. Drag Times from Florida came by, shot a walk around together as well. Joe Achilles has been here multiple times, including the start of the Black Series tour, also with his M3 Plus when he came with Petrol Ped and we shot a podcast together. Recently, Adam C stopped by with his Cobra. We've had Chiro and Scoot from Petrol Hedonism many times visiting here as well. Jody Kidd came by. Jody Kidd in the Sweet Shop for a collaboration. TGE TV, Tom stopped by with his Brabus G500 4x4 squared. Yanni Mize came by. Yanni stopped by with his Urus, matching my STO for a collaboration. Johnny Smith came from the Late Break Show, brought in the sofas with his Jimny. We've had Parker from Vehicle Virgins, went out in the Zenvo here, and he actually drove it in the US as well. Seb Delaney, another of the OGs, came by for a walk around. Steph ABTV did something very unusual. He came on a 24-hour challenge with his Smart, living in the car for that time. Sid North came with a Bentley Flying Spur. Christian from BOTB came with his dream car, the 458 Spider. And Electroheads came for an EV collaboration as well. I'm sure there are more. This is just what I've been able to think of right now. Amazing to have so many friends from the YouTube world come and visit here and just see the place evolve. I know we've gone backwards and forwards a little bit in all sorts of different orders there, but this is very different from when Paul and Sam came at the beginning, and there's still more to change. This is largely the finished look, certainly where the garage is heading. There's just going to be some smaller bits here and there to, let's say, refine the place, but hopefully many more people. I keep inviting James the Stradman to come over. Like I said, Mark needs to come by, Matt, maybe we get Matt Watson from CarWow to stop by. It feels like a place to get people to come and enjoy the cars, share, create some content that you guys can enjoy as well. A burning question that I know a lot of you are wondering, what happened to the Shmuseum channel? I get asked this question so often, and I guess it's time to explain a little bit more, because when I moved into this place 2.5 years ago, my idea was to almost separate a little bit of the content. At the time, if you think about it, and YouTube has always evolved, what I was filming primarily on the Shmee150 channel were test drives, reviews, lots of press events, lots of motor shows, that kind of thing. And over the last couple of years, that's changed a lot. So the idea was that things behind the scenes with the cars, and certainly the build here, would be more on a second channel, a little bit more informal, just things that were happening in day-to-day life. But as we progressed and got started, YouTube changed a lot in the back end in terms of algorithms, in terms of the way it works, but also in terms of the way people consume content. And I take a lot of pride in the fact that I spend hours and hours on analytics and on understanding the business of a YouTube channel. Don't get me wrong, this is incredibly fun, but I really love the business side of it. I really love understanding what works and what doesn't work. And I've been making videos pretty much every day for just shy of 14 years now, over 5,000 YouTube videos, over 1 billion views on YouTube, hundreds of millions of views on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. And have a pretty good understanding of how it all works. And the landscape in early 2021 was primed for making a second channel, for having second channel content. And the Shmuseum channel grew to 130-something thousand subscribers, which is insane. And a huge thanks to all of you. And we really enjoyed those projects because we also did the full restoration build of the F1 show car from what it was before the simulator through to being repainted, reworked at TDF. We also had all of the project of the Clio V6 out at SG Motorsport, repainted by Godlimans, and everything that we did with that. And really cool to be able to make it more of a team thing. But if I rewind you back to that period, I used to first, well, hold the camera, first person filming, rather than third person filming as we often do now. So there was a natural differentiation between Shmeemobiles 50 content and the Shmuseum content. Shmeemobiles 50 content was more driving a new Mercedes or a new BMW, whereas Shmuseum content would be more about the spec and the options of things of the Shmeemobiles. It was completely natural. But like I say, YouTube kind of changed, and throughout the history of Shmeemobiles 50, if you rewind back, my early videos were always car spotting, running around filming cars in London, Monaco, going to events like Goodwood, Geneva, that type of stuff. Then it became doing stuff with my Aston R8 and McLarens, a little bit more the supercar experience, living the supercar dream. I mean, that's quite literally what it was, being lucky to drive cars like that. I couldn't believe it. Then it became very much working with manufacturers, going to press events, media drives, those types of events, which have now become something that there are so many videos of. It's not something I enjoy filming in the same way. It was super exciting in the early days when I'd be able to go and film a new AMG car and there'd be very little content about it, whereas now it's not fun in the same way. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still very special and very exciting, but it's not the same. It's not the same, and as such, I've gravitated more towards trying to find unique content. It's always been about unique content, that unique supercar driving through London, that unique venue on a road trip or special road, that unique car to test drive, that unique experience to share with you with one of my own cars. And that's always something I've wanted to do. So fast forward, and there's basically less content that would normally have been under the Shmeemobiles 50 umbrella, under the umbrella of manufacturer drives. Of course, I still get to do some like the Lamborghini Revuelto and different BMW and Mercedes models and the first look at the 911 ST and that type of stuff. But there's far less of that relative to the amount I try and share with you with these cars. Whether it's, you know, a road trip in the GT Black series, whether it's an oil change service in the BMW 1M, whatever it might be, much more about putting together cool experiences. Also, my travel schedule, I often go away for a month on the road, or even longer. I was in the US for about 6 weeks with the Dark Horse tour. Maybe actually it was even 7 weeks, including the Las Vegas F1 at the end. And that changes the type of content we can create, the way that we can create it. So when it got to 6 or 7 months ago, and we were really starting the work on this, on the grandstand, the full build, understanding the plans that were ahead and the time commitment, because each and every stage takes quite a bit of time, quite a lot of time, which meant that I didn't have time to fly to other things. If we were focusing on this for a video, I wasn't going to be able to film any other content. And YouTube is quite a savage game if you don't understand it, because algorithms can be brutal and different channels slot into different ways, and even down to the way the actual algorithm manages it, but also down to the way the audience perceives content. And if you basically, let's say, let the Shmeemobiles 50 channel have no videos for a couple of weeks because it's all on the Shmuseum channel, it then means that the Shmeemobiles 50 videos don't do so well afterwards. So trying to maintain two coexisting channels where the line between them, you know, if it was test drives and garage stuff, it would be super clear. But as that content is merging together and the gap goes from here to here, you don't have the differentiation to begin with, so by conflicting it across two, effectively, I'm hurting the results of my own performance of the videos, which is obviously very important, because without that, none of this would happen in the first place. Plus, I wanted to really focus myself on building the Dream Garage, on building each of these stages. You know, it's a big commitment financially, the partners we're working with, to do things like the floor, like building the grandstand, like each of these parts. I don't want it to just happen in the background. I want to be part of it. It's exciting, it's fun. It's been the dream for many years. So I decided to bring the Building My Dream Garage series onto the Shmeemobiles 50 channel for whatever period of time it would turn out to be while we were going through these big stages of the process. The time commitment, the cost involved, just making sure that I was there anyway, because I'm quite particular. I think a lot of people in the YouTube world who manage their own channels are very similar in this respect, like the layout, the floor plan, the build, where switches go, where plugs go, all of that type of stuff. So being part of it has been really good fun, but it meant that obviously the focus was on the Shmeemobiles 50 channel. And then fast forward, and things here changed a little bit. As I'm sure many of you know, Tom hasn't been working with us in recent months. Brad is still here holding the camera, but things have changed in the way we're doing things. You know, it's an evolved existence. You know, what this was, or what I thought this could be 2.5 years ago, it changed. Things are a little bit different now, and that's just life. Life takes different directions, and it's about how you evolve and adapt and change with those. So as a result of that, and seeing the videos and the time commitment, and now not really having much behind the scenes to show you, because if I'm not here, there's not much going on anyway, it didn't make sense to try and keep the two channels going. So that's the very, very, very long-winded, probably just took me 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, I don't even know, to explain answer to why the Shmuseum channel no longer exists for the time being. Maybe it's something in the future I work out how to resurrect, but at the end of the day, I need the ideas. Without the ideas, it's very hard to figure out how to make that happen, and it needs to be fun. I've always believed that the content I create, I think this is super important, is something I enjoy doing. Because if I don't enjoy doing it, I don't think you guys enjoy watching it in the same way. I am unbelievably lucky, thanks to you, to be able to do what I do. But it's also been 14 years of this every single day, and everything around it. No weeks off, nothing like that, no holidays, no vacations. So it's very much something that I hold very closely to me. I need to look after, I need to do it properly, I need to focus, it needs to be right. And if it's right again in the future, if things change again, I think it's suitable to kickstart or get the channel up and running again. For sure, that's what we'll do. I know also nearly 200,000 of you are subscribed to the Shmeebites channel, which is our shorts channel, but also shorts have now moved more to the Shmeemobiles 50 channel as well. Things change. Shmeebites channel was actually bigger than the Shmuseum channel. But again, YouTube, when we started that a couple of years ago, actually I started that channel 12 years ago, but in more recent times, YouTube didn't like shorts being on the same channel as your main channel. There wasn't a differentiation until 6 months ago, 12 months ago, when basically things changed, algorithms changed, it started working, they created a separation, and it didn't kill your main videos to upload shorts. For those of you who don't understand YouTube, this is probably all very complicated, but that's the long-winded answer. Maybe the Shmuseum channel comes back in the future, maybe it doesn't. I don't have a direct answer for you. I don't know what the future holds. All I do know is that I want to keep creating epic videos, amazing experiences, and bringing you along to come and see what it's all about. In many ways, this video has probably been quite like a Shmuseum video, as they used to be, just talking about things. But I know there's only so much moving around the garage we can do with cars, right? We can't every single time just shuffle cars from one place to another, especially as we get closer to the final setup. I mean, at the moment, we've got the 4 spare spaces for those lifts. If I put up the LT, GT Black, SLS Black, and GT500. On this side, obviously we've got Max's car at the end. Even where the seating area and the table is, we could potentially just swap that out and have a car back there. And of course, there's room for another car here before you do the extra bit of shuffling, whatever's outside, like the pink van is outside at the moment. Now, I do want to do a full annual garage update, as I did last year, of the new cars, the mileage of the cars, because I find it very interesting just to look at the end of the year and get a sum total of how far everything drove and what everything cost. That's sometimes the slightly scarier figure. But obviously, the cars all live sitting. Nothing sits for too long other than the Clio. Sometimes the cars that aren't mine, but basically in my spreadsheet, things start blinking when it's been 2 months if nothing's moved. They blink a little after a month, they go crazy if it's been 2 months. Everything is plugged into the CTEC smart chargers, so every single car now has the new CS1 on them, which, whether it's a lithium battery or a lead acid battery, just works. You don't need to worry. Clamps can go either way around, doesn't matter, it works it out. The beauty of that is it's very simple, because we just pull the car in, park it up, we've got the extension leads, they run neatly, and it means everything's good to go on the button. And even when we have a little battery problem, like we did not very long ago with the 675, you can just get a new battery. I mean, that was 7 and a bit years old at the time. It happens. They do just die when they get a little bit older. And one time when it was out of my possession for a while, I believe the battery went dead and had to be brought back to life from there. But with a complete mix of which ones have lithium and which ones have normal batteries, it's quite hard to remember. I mean, even like the two Vantages, right? You might think they're the same. That's a regular battery. This is a lithium battery. So there's a lot to remember with that, and it makes life very, very easy. The other thing I do want to change though is for the electric car charging, obviously get the full EV charger back on the wall. With the Ferraris, which I want to keep on this side, but because they're hybrid, they have a much bigger power draw and they effectively need to go directly to the wall rather than through extension leads. So there are plugs behind that side. There aren't yet plugs here. So I need to get the trunking installed, get the plugs going along that wall so that we can somehow have the cables coming from these two, and in the future the XX as well. Well, probably instead of the SF90, but more to talk about with that in the future. This would almost certainly have to go, unless something else goes. I don't know, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yeah, to be able to plug them in here and not have any worries from that front. And obviously just have all of the power settings ready. In the early days, people said, why don't you get the plugs installed directly on the floor? That's a very costly exercise. And I had to balance all of this because I'm incredibly lucky to have a garage like this. This is literally a dream. It's more than a dream. This is beyond what I ever could have dreamt in terms of the cars, in terms of the space. But also, I'm very aware that normally a space like this would be owned by like a billionaire or something, and I'm definitely not. So I'm a long way short, way overstretched relatively, and things like putting in ramps to the other side or putting in plugs in the floor, which cost tens and tens and tens of thousands, would be impossible to justify. That's not how this setup and this business, so to speak, could function. It doesn't work like that. So it's all got to be worth doing for what we need to fit the right requirements. And at the end of the day, like I said, like if you had told younger me, if you had told me 15 years ago when I was making videos but hadn't yet uploaded anything, that this might happen one day, I would definitely have been, yeah, no, that's not possible. It's amazing to me all the time. And this project has just been so much fun. And we're only a couple of years, obviously, into having the space. It just took a long time to get organized and get it happening. So what's left? What's next? The back wall I talked about, a kind of mural, that's on my radar, to use that space to change it into something. Obviously, we've got a wall of tires back there at the moment, which we'd need to work out and rehome somewhere, but there are options for that. We need to do the toilet area, not going to be the most exciting, unless I find an amazing way of making a car-themed toilet, and there are definitely ways. That wasn't going to be my first priority to video. And then we need to redo furniture, layouts, things on the wall. I've got lots of ideas for the office rooms of how I want to do that and get that happening. Plus over this side, the extra room here is going to get finished and completed at some point, along with all of the electrics being done over on this side. I suspect in the not too distant future, we will say farewell to the Dub Customs TVR, the T350, also to Max's Jag. I don't know how long that's going to be hanging around for, but we also have other new arrivals in the collection. So you just have to watch this space and see what turns up and see what arrives. But yeah, it's crazy to think where this has come, considering where it began. Another question that I've seen quite a lot is, why don't we have a two-post lift, a working lift? And I did originally intend to get one, and technically we could put one here, and people have suggested if we're going to have one, put it at the back. But the last thing you want, for me, is to have that at the back, because it means all the dirty work is being done past all the clean cars. You know, everything's super clean and shiny, so I don't want to do it at the back. If we did it, it would be at the front. However, we have the BendPak Quick Jacks. The Quick Jacks, you can slide under a car, lift it up, and do most things that you're going to need to do. Unless you're doing a full Matt Armstrong, Freddie Tavares style rebuild of a wrecked car, which we're not about to, that does the job perfectly. And the beauty is they can be just popped away, pulled back out, don't take up any fixed space, because a two-post lift, if you think about it, takes up basically 2 cars worth of spaces, or at least a substantial amount, as well as being the permanent kind of view and obstruction. So I like this ability of just being able to swing cars in, pop a quick jack under if we need to, can do it here, can do it there, can shuffle it around, and have access to everything nearby. So that's been a big solution. They're tucked away just at the moment. We'll possibly bring them closer, maybe have them, I don't know where exactly down the line, but having that ability means that we can work on a car here without the stress. Because for any big thing, and I'm just going to address the obvious here, any car like a Ford GT or a new Ferrari, you take to the respective company. Firstly, for your warranty. Secondly, because they know more than you do, or certainly they know more than I do. There are cars we can do things with here the Clio, the 1M, that type of stuff, and we do, and probably will continue to do. But most new cars or very valuable cars, it even matters to have the stamp in the book. I'm sure this varies from one country to another, but even with the Ford GT, I don't intend to ever sell this car, but let's say in 20 years' time, something's happened to me and the car needs to be sold. If it has a proper stamp, it's a much more valuable car than if it has, hey, I did it in my garage. So I have to, again, be realistic with that kind of thing. And actually, I have to say, Ford don't charge you too much, and I'm very lucky to have a good friend, Tony Turbo Transport, to help take the cars to different places. So that also makes it very easy. But that also hopefully answers another question, which I'm sure people have asked about workshop things, about why we don't have a two-poster lift. I have waffled on far too much, but I hope this has explained a little bit of the truth behind the Shmuseum channel, what's happened with that, and understanding a little bit more of the YouTube world, but also the full story of all of this. How cool is it that we have this video diary of what this place was like 3 years ago to what it's like now, all of the builds, and this hopefully serves as well as something to look at in the future, maybe when it's all changed again, to be reminded, and if you're interested in some of the things we've done, to see who did what, which companies were part of which stage. And as much as I would love this to be a venue where I could invite some of you guys to come and visit, unfortunately for a couple of reasons, namely insurance and also the land use, both of which are an absolute no, it's not something that I can do at this stage, but maybe in the future we can do something. For now, we try our hardest to get as many of the Shmeemobiles as possible out to events like Petrol Hedonism. Expect to see us there again at future events, the Goodwood Festival of Speed and things like that. So trying to get as much out there as we possibly can. It takes a lot of organising, a lot of arranging, but hey, we often manage it, even if the logistics are about as complicated as they could possibly be. For today though, I think that is probably all. I'd like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I would like to say a huge thank you to all of the companies, the partners, the sponsors, the people who have been part of this fantastic project. And of course, again, to you guys for everything. If it wasn't for you, this wouldn't be possible, and I cannot express my thanks enough. So once again, I wish you a very Merry Christmas, have a wonderful holidays, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!